Hello, listeners of the Art Versations podcast. I don't feel like hitting a note today, so that's all you're going to get. Roll the intro music.
My name is Broadway Classic.
Let's hear it.
Welcome back to another episode of Art Versations, or welcome if this is your first time tuning in. Before we get started, I do want to mention you'll find in the description Black Lives Matter donation links. Please consider checking those out. Thank you for clicking on the show. I mean, if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe or follow to stay up to date on new episodes. I'm assuming you're listening because you love art and talking about art. And, well, so do I. Hi, I'm Bri, like the cheese, your host. And for my guest this week, I had lovely Kelly Shaw on. She's a dancer, a teacher, a real nice human being. I can't say enough about her, really. I've been lucky enough to learn from Kelly for so many years, and so sitting down with her over Zoom was a real treat to just pick her brain. She opened up to me about how she's finding ways to let her voice be heard. And many of us, not just dancers, but artists, we can totally relate to that. I also want to mention that this was recorded on May 22nd, so a little bit while ago. But regardless, please enjoy episode 19 of season 2.
So it's bless contemporary dance. You're wearing sweatpants and socks in like a black room. Yeah, okay. You could definitely deal with your shit like that.
Yeah. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, my friend.
How are you doing? Even though that's a horrible question, but I guess I can refer it to maybe like, how are you feeling right now?
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Mm.
How am I feeling right now? Today, we've had a couple days of sunshine, and that makes a huge difference for my body and soul. And, it's really cleansing. I think every single day I have multiple personalities in real life. Yeah. In real life. So then, especially when we're in this quote unquote isolation and spending so much time in introspection, that just gets amplified. So in this moment, I am feeling grounded and a little bit nervous about this conversation.
Totally expected.
Trying to be present with you.
Thank you. I those 3 words actually I can relate to completely, because I do feel nervous, and even just the beginning of a podcast is always very nerving for me, because I start to realize, like, how do I navigate a conversation that is recorded? How does that work? Right?
Yeah, it's totally true. If we were just having a phone conversation, we wouldn't be thinking twice about how to control it. But then all of a sudden, these themes of control, perfect, and product. So this all of a sudden needs to be presented like a performance or a product. And as performers, we can so quickly switch our brains to this place where we need to show up in something that feels manufactured.
Right.
And yet the beauty and the essence and the thing that's so special about a podcast is that it is not manipulated and manufactured in a way that something that was rehearsed could be.
Totally. Yeah. And I want to give us time. Like, I want to allow for space to let us process our thoughts and sort of not expect it to be like, okay, everyone has to talk at the same time and there can be no dead air, right? I'm actually interested, even that's a bigger question of like online and the performance of social media in a way. Like, I know that's a huge topic. I'm like, because especially now that we can't be in person, so we're like constantly performing.
Completely.
Ugh,
yeah.
It's weird.
And, I was really grappling and going back and forth a bit when I was in Australia when people were starting to quarantine and isolate, which
was gonna
we can
ask you about
totally come
that.
back to.
Yes,
But
let's do
that
that.
felt like I was not even a part of what was happening in Canada. So I didn't feel I was using social media as I normally would, not thinking twice about it, sharing my trip. I knew that people wanted to see facets of my journey. And organically, I just kind of was finding moments and spaces to do these sort of like site specific improvisations, and then
Yeah.
was using social media to share them, and then coming home to being in quarantine in my parents' house. And
Mm.
it organically like just rolled into still using social media in that way to express and perform. And then like I'd say 10 days into that, I had to take a break, and I really had to check myself and say, wait a second, is this, where are you, where is this coming from? Like,
Mm.
is this authentic? Does this still feel within
Mm.
that organic space that it did when you were traveling? And of course the answer is no, because I wasn't traveling. I was in my
Right.
carpeted office of my parents' house.
Totally
And
different from like
yet,
the landscape of Australia.
right. So then it was like, oh, it's not showcasing like these brilliant places that planet Earth has gifted us. It really was just like me being a performer.
Mm.
And so then I just kind of, had to reckon and rumble with myself a little bit, and find a space that felt really like truth. and
Mm.
and I started to analyze it less after taking space away,
Okay.
and seeing social media almost as a way to become, how do I articulate this, to become a, it seems so simple, but to become a truer version of myself, and using social media as an experiment.
Okay. Okay.
Especially right now, because there's more people
Mm-hmm.
online more often. And
Mm.
so I've caught myself, the moment where you've, say you want to post something, and then you get those inner critic, those
Yeah.
voices, that
Always.
ego
Always.
sneaking up
Mm-hmm.
and going, don't post that, da, 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 da,
Mm.
or why, da, da, da.
This
And
person's
I've
gonna
done
think
like,
this. Yeah.
mm-hmm, I've been putting into practice a 3-2-1 rule, which is if I have that immediate instinct to post it, that feels like truth because I have something to share in that moment. And then I go 3-2-1, boom.
Mm.
And then the critic comes out, of course, and then
Of
you
course.
go back and check like 6 times, and you're like, what was it? Or sometimes I'll just delete the app,
Okay.
because then
Good.
that really allows me to detach from any validation, judgment, need for comment, need for feedback. And
Right.
that has given me so much freedom.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm just using it as a channel or as this instrument to explore sides of my personality that normally I may curate in a rehearsal space or
Mm.
in a performance. We're still manipulating the way we're being perceived as performers, or how you show up. So with this kind of
Yeah.
3-2-1 game, like I've become much more playful with it. And so
Mm.
I analyze less like, oh no, I've posted 8 dance videos this week. Like, honestly, great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Like,
just an
who says that's
expression of where
bad
you are
thing?
at.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like an experiment, like a in the moment, whatever you need right then and there. Because that really should be what it is. I think. I mean, it's such, like I'm gonna go back and contradict myself completely, but for me,
Story of
like
my life.
right, like it's such a big thing that we've all been using now for this, last 10 years or so, and it's like it's now all of a sudden become like an addition of ourselves and
Completely.
like another way of us to express ourselves, which is great. Like I don't mind that. But what I do mind is when it becomes filtered and crafted in a way that looks or comes across as fake, right? That's where I'm like, can't do that. I also feel like people who follow me wouldn't want to see that. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know. I wouldn't want them to want that.
Yeah, you would hope that there's something that resonates, or there's this streamlined, or the person that's online is the person that, the brand I see online is the brand I'm talking to right now, is the brand I see
Exactly.
on stage, is the brand I see in rehearsal, which I think comes back to like knowing yourself, and like really going in to figure out what is your authentic code, like what
Mm,
are the parts of yourself. And then in that, social media for me at least is like, okay, wait, that silly, goofy, quirky, unfiltered like mess of a Kelly that my really good friends know, how can I, like last night at midnight, my friend JT's like, Lady Gaga, the Ariana Grande song's out. And I was
yes,
like,
yeah.
let's go. And I just turned on my camera and was just like, who cares? I didn't even rewatch the thing. I just posted it,
Mm,
and I was like, that feels a bit scary, like it's on the edge, which means that
right.
there's growth there. When we're comfortable, it means we've done it before, which means there's not a whole lot of growth to be had. So
Mm,
when you're in that space of nervous, like where we were when we started this conversation, it means we're edging on expansion, which is, I think,
mm,
truly why we're here.
The quick little just, I'm going to turn on my camera. And then, yeah, I like that you didn't look back at it. You kind of just sort of let it be as it is and then presented it to the public or to your following. Yeah. Hmm.
And that may not be what people want to use it for at all. They may like, oh man, no, I'd like rather go for a walk in the woods and use that as my experiment, and not like a little screen, which I'm also doing. Like I'm trying to balance it with many different types of research projects, you could say. But that's just
Yeah.
one way that I've been able to digest, and feel okay about my own personal use of the platform right now, because it
Hmm.
is a lot, and it will continue to be a lot for as long as this is our quote unquote new normal.
Mm,
um
yes. Yeah.
yeah, because as we were saying before, it's like I'm but there's a huge part of me that's rejecting this as a normal, but then in
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
same breath, how do I still make it work for me? How can I still have this be an expansive exercise?
Mm, yeah. Looking at it from a different perspective. Yeah. I mean, like the new normal right now that we're living is all online, but it's also like now all of a sudden we all kind of have a little square or a little video on the Instagram app for someone to look at. And someone can, scroll through it and oh, there's Kelly's thing and oh, there's Brianna's thing. It kind of almost like, this is me just thinking aloud, like almost giving every single person a chance to say something in some
Mm,
ways. Like maybe that's a good thing. Like we can pass the mic to someone and say, okay, what do you want to present about yourself? Or
yeah,
and yeah, I'm trying to think of it in a good way as much as I can. I mean, I'm
that's
interested to
beautiful.
hear. Well, thank you. I'm
Yeah, I
interested to
really
hear
like
more
that.
about like how, because I've been looking through some of your current posts, and they're very much about writing and sort of
Mm,
these like almost like spur of the moment or thoughts that you're having, and you put them in like a nice little paragraph for us to all read. Like how has that been therapeutic, or why did you choose to go against, like it has to be a quick caption and say, okay, I'm going to give myself time to write about what I'm actually feeling?
yeah. Well, interesting. It's funny because you don't, I guess maybe it speaks to the fact that I'm really trying to come from an authentic, not overly analytical place, that I never really um, mindfully or cognizantly said, this is the way I now will show up to social media, and this is how I need to express 1 + 1 = 2. It really emerged in this way that feels like where I'm at, and just an extension of where I'm at and the experiences I'm having. If thinking about the writing, I mean, I was sort of always able to articulate through my pen or pencil growing up.
Cool.
I had quite a connection to writing and reading, and
Words are great. Words are awesome.
they really are. And like in a way, I feel like many dancers may resonate with that. we can write and we can read and we can dance. And there's this crazy block in our throat chakra where you just literally choke on your words when they come out.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
I still cringe. I'm really working through it to hear the sound of my own voice.
Yes.
Or who said that? Why did I say it like that? I would never write it like that. I would never dance it like that. But I'm going to go on a small tangent because this is a thought that I had the other day. So I was very shy. So a way of my main expression came through movement and through writing, growing up as an adolescent. And I was really shy as a little girl. And then I became better through, speech competitions in school. And things
debates
like this.
or...
Yeah, no, just I don't know, in grade 8, it was a thing where you write a speech and then there was you could go on to different stages of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine were all
academia.
In French, so I didn't ever try to compete for that because let alone speaking English is hard for me. So, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, the speech competitions. Yes, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's I became better with my words, although I would assert now that I was good at speaking when it was a performance, quote unquote, because I could relate to becoming the performed version of Kelly speaking, which is another thing I'm tackling right now. And then as a teacher and but it was as I got better, articulating and bringing it from my inner world to my outer world, which is what our throat is, our voice really is what connects what's going on inside of us spiritually to how we physically show up on earth as a human. And as a dancer, it's almost and I don't want to put any kind of umbrella or assume this of anyone other than myself, but there's this archetype of, oh, I'm shy, I'm not really good with my words, I'm not good with my voice, I move. That's what I do. I express as I move. And it's it becomes what's the word I'm looking for, cool or the thing to be shy, to not be good at conversing in that way because you're a mover. Right. And so that must be your best form of communication. And in a way, I think telling myself that unconsciously kind of created a lid on other ways that I was able to express myself. And I kind of fell away from writing. The only way I was writing was I've worked with a therapist for about 6 or 7 years now, is through journaling and the sort of stream of consciousness and working through tasks and my own inner shit, which has been super, super helpful, but not as, an expressive, experimental research way that I would go in and improvise with my body. And so I would say in the last 6 months, when I've come back to explore maybe pieces of myself that I've just left behind along the way, or I've just put on the shelf for a little too long.
Right.
I guess it kind of grabbed onto that writing piece of myself that used to be really near and dear to my heart. And it just, again, it happened really organically. And I even have gone back in my posts and been oh, I've always kind of wanted to speak to the self-development, inner mindful thing in all of my posts. And now I'm just just going for it. Just show people more of what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I don't need to be silent because I'm a mover anymore. I've decided that for myself.
Love it.
It's not fair to my power. It's not fair to how I show up in the world. Yeah, that was a long-winded answer.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, you say a lid. I heard this expression the other day from a friend of mine named Susan Blackwell. And she said that when she was younger, she used to cork herself, where she would sort of let the throat, nothing would come out because of this metaphorical lid or this cork. And yeah, I've been finding ways to uncork myself. And
I love
that
that.
doesn't always have to be in speaking, but it really is about like, and in some ways this podcast does help me, like, what are your thoughts saying? Can you articulate them in a way that is meaningful and precise to a point? Like, you don't want to be run on sentencing the whole time, but also just having a conversation with someone. For some reason, I think there's a generalization that dancers can't do that, but they can. I think everyone has the power to do that. It's that thing of like, oh, I don't talk, I move, right? What?
Yes.
Do you never talk to anyone?
It's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost, to me, I think it was a way for me to play small. I could be comfortable, as I talked about earlier. Comfort means you've done it before, so you feel safe, your ego feels comfortable.
Yeah.
We don't talk as much as we dance. I've been training as a dancer for 23 years, so that gets all the attention, that gets all the energy, and I don't have to be super uncomfortable because I can always hide behind the veil of the physical mover.
Right.
But then we really do a disservice to ourselves in, again, like bringing our inner world out and really showing up in this 3-dimensional way. Like,
yeah. Why wouldn't you want to talk? Why wouldn't you want to be okay with speaking and letting your voice be heard too?
mm-hmm.
Because maybe you can speak in your room, or you can speak on your phone to social media, but then in person it's like, I can't. Here's my high leg, or my, whatever it is in the dance world. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And I always loved when I have and still do, when process involves experimental use of voice and expressing in that way. But it's like, oh, this is still in a safe space and in a safe bubble of, oh, I'm gonna go and like make this noise like I'm something visceral and guttural, and it's like, no questions asked. Like, I will literally make a sound like I'm throwing up. I cut off my arm and jump out a window if it's in and underneath this, again, like umbrella of the performer, the dancer, for the art. But then, like, I can't speak in my authentic voice at Starbucks when I'm ordering like my tea for the day. Like, all of a sudden I get flushed and I feel shame and I feel small and vulnerable. It's like, well, that's gross. Like,
yeah.
Where is that disconnect, or that, lie that I've told myself that I don't have a voice?
Because there's noise going on in your body, right? Like when we dance,
Totally.
like there's so much text and audio that we can sort of feel, I guess you could say. Yeah. And then, I know what you mean about like when the audition is like, oh, can you, make a noise or whatever's going on inside, like let it out. And then you're like, in the whole, in the room, and everyone's like, what? It's like, well, I have a voice too. Like, it's part of my body, this voice box that I use. Yeah.
And of course, I think you and I may be similar in that we are comfortable going those extreme places, and definitely not every mover is. Not every dancer is, but just to speak personally for myself, I just have questioned, like, what about that makes me more comfortable than having this conversation and having my voice be heard in this way? Is sort of the thought.
Yeah.
Lost my pen.
I'm thinking even too about like the discipline of dance, and even like a ballet class where there formally really shouldn't be any talking, right? Because we want to stay in the bar exercise or whatever. I'm wondering if it's that maybe from like a young age of us training to put on a posture and shut our lips. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's definitely a big.
And not to say that that's like, ballet, it is so traditional that there has to be a level of discipline. I always believe that, and I'm sure you understand that too as a classically trained performer. Like you do have to sort of say, okay, like I'm going to surrender myself to the music or to the frappe exercise that I have to do. But then,
surrender to the frappe. That's right.
Never thought I would say that. But like when is it okay for a young ballerina to say something with their voice?
Oh yeah. It's this like complete juxtaposition and
Mm-hmm.
the contradiction of it all, because I agree, like there's a formality, there's a meditative, mindful, um, also just respect for that form and for the technique. And even like for sure in a ballet class where it might be a little bit more like tightly sealed, but in other classrooms and even in like academic classrooms, you put your hand up to talk. And I mean, I was always a kid that never wanted to put my hand up, because if I put my hand up, that makes me vulnerable to get chosen. What happens when I get chosen? I have to speak, and then there is space for judgment and shame and all of
Right.
these things. Whereas if it was something physical, we would love to be chosen to do something physical.
Mm-hmm.
you know so
Yeah.
anyway, I completely agree that it's sort of like embedded in us, like you just don't have a choice other than to learn that those are the rules and the regulations, and there needs to be that structure so that you can learn. But then at
Yeah.
what point can we unleash the beast, or
Mm.
like get to know ourselves and be comfortable? And that's a whole other thing about
Yeah.
a slightly suppressed society. By slightly, I mean majorly repressed
Yeah.
collective situation
I
we
mean,
have. But
like text and acting is a part of a performance,
yeah,
not just in dance. I think in plays and theater. So I mean, why wouldn't you want to explore that? I guess. I mean, you. I'm even thinking about the monologue that you did in Figaro 2.0 with
oh yeah,
Pararte. Like
yeah.
that was it was like an act one closer, and it was a monologue where you stood on stage and didn't move. Like that's like finally there's a moment in a dance show where I can hear people speak. It was great. It really resonated with me, truly.
Cool. That's really. I actually kind of forgot about it till now. I'm glad it's something that stands out for you. Yeah, and in a what is quite well known as a contemporary ballet company in the city, to Roberto took a huge risk doing that, and there was lots of different types of feedback on people liking it or not. But it was I mean, separate from any kind of opinion I would have of it, it was such a beautiful opportunity for growth and curiosity. And like, let's talk about how do you not come on stage for the first 25 minutes of that whole entire piece. And the first thing I do is this, like, essentially what is equivalent to like a soliloquy of despair as the opening solo, balancing on one leg and then finishing with this monologue. Like, I will tell you, my preparation for that was sitting backstage and I would warm up. So I do ballet class, but I wouldn't want to get too warm because I still had a 25-minute break before I had to get on.
Right.
And so for the first probably 15 minutes of the show, which started quite light, I was like, okay, how do I, how can I pull from my Marianne moments, my tactic work
Marianne
in
McIsaac.
at Ryerson? I adore
Yes.
Marianne, and I've like called her many times
A wonderful
in my
woman.
career.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, how do I get to my tactic? Like, what am I trying to get out of this opening solo? And so I had to go into the solo almost as if it was a theater piece as well, almost as if it was a piece of text also.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to separate the dancer from the speaker that I would then be later.
I love that. Okay.
So I would literally sit in child's pose backstage with my headphones in, listening to the soundtrack of The Star Is Born.
Nice. Okay.
I would listen to like I'll Never Love Again.
Right.
Is That All Right? Shallow. Like, I just needed this really raw.
Dramatic.
I think I probably saw the movie like right before the show or something.
Okay.
And just like loved Gaga's performance in it. And I was like, that rawness of her at the end is what I want to be my expander into this. Like, how can I step into that kind of feeling of expression? And I would just listen to the music and lay there in child's pose and try to get myself almost hyperventilating in tears, so that I could be in this place where I was entering the stage as if it had already happened, because it had. Like, she was in this state of, well, my husband's a cheater and my life is over and I'm unworthy. But then, like 5 minutes before I had to go on stage, I'm like doing tondus again. So it's like,
you need time for both. You do.
Exactly. And then I would get off stage and just kind of try to ride that wave and let that lead me into the text. Who knows if it worked or not, but it was certainly crazy. And we had 2 weeks of shows, so I was like pretty depressed for about 2 weeks.
Gosh. It's really
I really
like
give it to actors.
And just my God.
Yeah.
Completely. To be able to leave it like all on the stage like they do. Yeah. Although I mean, we do that as dancers too, I guess. It's just totally different, I guess. Yeah.
Something about not having to say the words, that we're coming full circle. Something about not needing to let it out through your throat feels less. I've been exploring this idea too of not being necessarily deliberate about what we're processing, because we can move in such an abstract way that, like, I know that day I feel charged. There's a charge, and like, it could feel a bit like nausea, or it could feel like anxiety, but I don't have to call it anything. I don't have to describe it to anybody. I don't have to know it for myself, but I can move through it. I can move it around my body and I can feel maybe a little bit better. I think it's more of a Band-Aid. The more I've been exploring this, I think it's more of a Band-Aid for that 24 hours maybe, because if you're not being deliberate about what you're alchemizing, then you can't move through it. You can't let it go. That's why I think we get a lot of gunk stuck in us as dancers, because we don't have that voice piece, that throat piece, where actors, I don't know, something about it physicalizing from their voice probably feels like maybe a release for them.
Right.
But also like way more intense, because they have to like label it with words
in
like
context.
Human. Context, language.
Yeah.
Whereas dancers are just like, oh yeah, just like, well, I don't know what that was, but I feel way better. Okay, let's go get some like froyo.
Well done, coming back full circle, because I think that's totally it. That's totally it. It's like we can remove the literal actual feeling and replace it with a very intricate, gesture phrase.
Exactly. And you don't have to call it what it is.
No.
And so you don't actually have to deal with it. Whereas, like, for example, if I'm doing this monologue and some of the words were like shipwrecked no more, like, you can't fuck with me anymore, like, these, once you say it, you can't unsay it. Your body can't unknow it once it becomes tangible, like in the 3D world. But when we dance, it's just like we just live in these mini fake worlds.
It's funny, I actually
safer.
Like I never really know, unless the dance piece is very much like a character. I don't really know where I am on stage when I'm dancing. Is there a location? Is there a setting? And so I kind of feel like an alien a little bit in this like floaty, and there's never any set usually. So there's nothing except like a wing or a backdrop. So it's
God bless contemporary dance. You're wearing sweatpants and socks and in like a black room. Yeah, okay. You could definitely deal with your shit like that.
Yeah. At least somehow the movement gets translated to the audience. Yeah. Wow.
And even the audience, they know they're feeling something. You get responses to pieces as an audience member, but also you'll hear audience members say to us as the performers, like, man, like, I don't even know what that was about, but you got me. Or like, I was crying at the end and I don't know why. And you're like, yeah, nobody knows. But we're feeling it together. And that too is the magic of dance.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that we're not labeling it. So it's like this, I'm in this place of like, how do we hold on to the genius that is movement without making it literal, and yet still like somehow survive as humans that don't need to be like in therapy 3 times a week.
Yes.
Because we're not running away from our like
right, yeah,
the reality.
What is your relationship to movement right now? Like feeling like you can't go to class in a traditional form. You can't be on stage. Like, do you find yourself improving in your room? Do you find yourself not wanting to move? What's your relationship right now with movement?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think similar to saying that I have like many personalities every day, I have many ways that I relate to movement every day. They are interchangeable within the 24 hours and then like huge roller coaster throughout the week and throughout the months. I would say when I first got back from Australia, I was so hungry to be doing something that had more form. And
Can I ask why you were there? Was it just a vacation?
in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, I was eat, pray, loving my life away.
Lovely.
I like to use it as like one verb. Eat, pray, love.
Right. Yeah. Everyone knows the movie. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It was completely a spur of the moment. On January 1st, I clicked buying tickets for money that I didn't have and practicing this abundance mindset. And
Nice.
I have never traveled all by myself for something that wasn't work oriented.
Okay.
So of course I have to go to the furthest point from Canada because that's normal.
You need to get away. You need to get away. Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. And I've always had a call to go there. I've always felt it in my body. It just feels, yeah. So I will definitely be going back because my trip got cut about a week and a half because of the virus.
Okay.
I still had 2.5 amazing weeks, but and I'm so grateful. I'm glad I went because there was a hot second where it was, well, people are saying that like Corona could come here, and at that time it was like, no.
Yeah, because it was right when the quarantine broke out that you were there, right? Yeah, it was like, are people going to be able to travel? Maybe not, maybe. And then I'm glad you got home before they, completely shut off any travel.
Yeah, it was wild. Because not only I was halfway across the world, barely, I had like 2 acquaintances there and just exploring and doing my thing, but it was also like, yeah, this pandemic broke out and I would wake up, this is a 13-hour time change, and I would wake up to these messages from people who, like, I am so grateful for the people that care about me this much and like informing me kind of constantly about what the government was saying and when they were closing the borders and are you coming back and are you and because Canada was in like Australia, it didn't hit there till a lot later. There was no sense of immediacy or panic in Australia. Right. And so only when I would engage with friends or my phone would all of a sudden I get this wave of anxiety, like, holy shit, I'm dying. And so much fear. And so traveling home with people, everyone wearing masks, and oh man, like talk about fear just being pervasive and like it's low frequency energy, right? So you just feel it in your body instantly. Like I stepped into the airport and was having a panic attack. But anyway, yes, I'm super grateful that I got to go and that I got home safe and that I had no symptoms somehow because I was around a lot of people.
Look at that. Luck is on your side. Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. Strong immunity. Yes. Dance.
Yeah,
so
then, I totally cut you off, but yeah, I was just interested to know because I was like, oh, is she going there for a dance thing or it was just a nice vacation? That's good.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, if we're talking about relationship to dance, I went with no expectation of what it might mean for dance. There were there's like some cool companies and stuff there that I was like, you know what? If I feel called to it and it feels like it's right, I will reach out and take a class.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't dance at all. Maybe I'll dance the whole time. And I didn't. I just improv'd in public spaces as an experiment of how I could be vulnerably arriving. There's also this beautiful permission to not give a fuck because I was in Australia and there's no chance anybody knew who I was.
Right. The anonymity, right? Anonymity.
Yeah. I have a memory of like dancing right in front of the opera house, and I was on this staircase just going, and all these people were passing me by. I didn't really notice, and then I looked down and there was a woman, this older woman, who was just sitting on the ledge cross-legged, just with this little smile on her face looking up at me. And she stayed there and watched me the whole time. And I was like, it felt like I was giving, it felt like, so here's the magic of dance. We were
Okay.
having a conversation, right? And I had no idea what I was saying, and she had no idea what she was hearing. And I will never forget that moment till I die.
Yeah, like you
So
didn't
it
even
was
have to
like,
talk about it.
yeah,
She was just looking. Wow, that's cool.
yeah.
That is the
So that
magic of
was,
dance.
yeah, that was my relationship to it when I was there. So when I got home at first, I had this
Mhm.
huge pull to like, okay, get on. Wow, I can take all these classes anonymously
Right, right.
and not need to be in the class, and like, oh, I can take this hip hop class, I can do this jazz funk class, like da, 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 da. And I was like
Nice.
on a rampage for 2 weeks, and then I was like, I hate dance. I
Ah,
hate,
okay.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in a studio. I
Yeah.
don't, again, this is there, I'm having this weird relationship with taping myself, and why am I posting it, and what is the point of this, and
Right.
seeing everyone else posting things, and I just was in this weird space. And then I really started to explore, through, I've been posting a lot about Alvin's journey with his new brand, sort of, and his technique of using groove and pleasure to
Alvin
explore.
Colantes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And oh man, we go way back. All of us do.
Mm, I know. Yeah, Alvin.
Fresh days.
Oh gosh, yeah. Alvin gave me my first photo shoot. Like it's like
Right?
he's been
Yeah.
there. Yeah, yeah.
He and I have been through so much together, and I sort of like saw someone post that he was doing this, and I started doing it every single day, and it became like my meditation, my movement meditation. He refers to it as that
Ah.
also. And I just had this huge aha moment where I recognized how much I've stopped myself from dancing for fun, dancing without form,
Yeah.
dancing like, how actually does Kelly Shaw move? If music is
Mm,
on and there is
mm,
no, like, as a blank canvas,
mm-hmm.
like, I don't even like, here's another thing, like, oh, I'm a dancer, I don't talk. Oh no, I'm a professional dancer, I don't dance in clubs. Like, people pay me to dance.
Mm.
Oh, you know what, to dance, show us some moves. I'm always the person that's like, no. But that is a
Yeah.
judgment of myself and an insecurity of not trusting that I can dance like a fool and it doesn't matter.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
this construct that I've built around the ways that is appropriate for me to move as a contemporary professional dancer. Like,
Yeah.
ew,
All
it's
these
so gross.
influences and training background and the
Yeah.
certain audience that you're gonna perform to, you know,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
and it was, I had this like really beautiful runway into like, oh my God, this is the work right now. Like, literally dancing in my pajamas, dancing in my underwear, dancing in like whatever, putting on a song. Like, why couldn't I move my hips?
Mm.
Just move them. Just like, you know, whoa,
Yeah.
it was crazy. I was like, this contemporary, yeah, like construct or confined. Like, I love this quote: "We live in the prisons that we build ourselves." And it suddenly has been striking me how contemporary dance, I've built a prison for
Hmm.
myself as a mover in a way.
Hmm.
Um, and I've also had a lot of lower back injuries and hip injuries and things. And I'm like, there's so much trauma in that pelvic region,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and that now I have a serious aversion to moving it. But it's also, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the injuries
Mm.
happen and then you started preventing yourself from being in that place, or are you so blocked in your sacral, like,
Mm-hmm.
chakra area,
Yeah.
which is where your life force is, that then the injuries manifest? So
Mm.
I've been exploring, just noodling around, and you know,
Nice.
less form. And then the other day, I was like, whoa, tondus feel really great. So
Oh, wow. Okay. Look at that. Yeah.
it's literally a roller coaster. But I think listening in every way, um,
Yeah.
to our inner voice and to our bodies is the only way that I can approach it right now. Because
Right.
if I need it to be a certain version of anything, it's just holding me back from everything that I can become during this time.
Mm. Yeah, it goes back to like self-care and with injuries that are past but could come back, like
Mm.
there's always that fear of like, oh,
Oh,
if I go too much in this direction with my hip, well, then that's where the injury was. It's going to come back.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I relate to that completely. I have a hard time with the whole left side of my body. I think we've actually talked about this, but like
Yes,
the
I'm a left
whole
side too.
like
Left side of my
the
back. Yeah.
whole left side of my body has always had the injuries, has always been the one the side that's overworked the most, like trying to hold me up,
Your
and like
stabilizer.
my
Yeah.
stabilizing leg, right? So then it gets tired easily, but I also want to strengthen it so that so right, like
Absolutely.
during this time I've had to sort of almost return to zero and tried to sort of not dance at 100 because I need
Mm.
my body to relax and go back to what it was when I hadn't even danced when I was 6 and you know
Yeah. Christine Wright talks a lot about creating a new set point for your body in
mm,
her work. I
cool,
love this approach, but it really takes a lot of undoing before you can find the new or before you can redo, right? So it's like
right,
unlearning all of these habits and patterns and like the fascia in our body. Thank you, Sam Booker.
Sam
Like
Booker.
literally holds the
Mm-hmm.
memory of the action. Like if there's crazy stuff where like a pitcher, if you look at their fascia because of their throwing arm, it looks like a sling around their body and
Mm,
it's thicker in that directional, like the trajectory of it is built
right.
in a way to support that action. So you can imagine what the hell a dancer's looks like. Like the hip, the working leg hip, imagine what the fascia there looks like. So
Mm-hmm.
then to and similar to you in these like pretty traumatic injuries I've had, it's like there's so much undoing, there's so much unlearning to come back to zero, and you it really needs to be like incremental. Like in the last, I had a hip thing flare up for me also, and it's like Pilates and moving hardly at all and honoring like your journey to find the new like neutral zone, this
Mm-hmm.
to allow your body to feel safe again, because I think that's really what it is in essence. It's like if you're, oh, I don't want to lift my leg this way because I might get injured, it's because you're living in fear. So
Yeah.
how do you convince like neurologically your brain to know it's safe here, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay,
It's
it's safe
okay
to
to
move your
try
hips.
again. Yeah.
mm, mm-hmm. What a metaphor for life.
Mm-hmm. It's safe. Yeah. I actually do want to, we're actually getting close to ending, but I do want to talk a little bit more about like one of the posts that you had really resonated with me. You said time to arrive or it's time to arrive, almost as if like you've been waiting or this is what I got from it, that you've been waiting for something to happen, even though you've been working so hard. Like I know you're a very hard worker, like your work ethic is incredible. And then I thought, wait, so there's still more, there's still something that I need to arrive at and meet with. Like I'm interested in just that, like hearing more about that, what that means for you to meet yourself and arrive.
mm,
If we
yeah.
can finish with that, I don't know. We'll see.
Totally. Yeah, this has been such a fun conversation. I feel like we could go for like 5 hours.
I know. I wish.
um, yeah, arrive in a sense of recognizing that home lives inside of all of us, as cliche as that may sound. But I would say all of these things and like use this vocabulary and speak to things, self-love, self-worth, home is your body, da da da. But like you don't integrate or embody or like really truly know it until you're ready to know it. I
Mm,
mean, like deeply your soul knowing.
mm,
And it can't be taught and it can't be timed and it can't be rushed. And I guess in that's sort of the answer there is like, I
yeah.
felt like I've been running this race for years, probably since I was like 10 years old. So like 21 years
Yeah.
of just, you and so many children, not just dancers. It's like you wake up, you rush to school, and then right from school you go to your extracurricular, which was dance for me, which you spend the whole night, and then you rush home to do your homework, and then the whole game starts again the next day, and then you get to your dance competition. It's like we're always trying to get. And when I arrive and when I get there and when I do the thing and I get the first and I blah blah blah, it's like that makes me feel arrived, home, validated, worthy, loved. I think arriving for me in that post, I would say, just means arriving to myself, showing up for me, showing up for my life. I would say about 6 months ago, I realized that I felt like I was watching myself live a life of racing and arriving or trying to arrive, having these fleeting moments of feeling like you do arrive. You know, you have the good performance, or you have the really good rehearsal, or you get the job, or you do the thing, and like, ooh, I've arrived. And then because it's not perhaps aligned, or you don't feel that safety, that home that we're talking about that the body is, it slips away so fast. The next day, suddenly you have somewhere else to arrive. And it's like, what would it mean to always be arrived? Like you're already there. You've got nowhere to go. All you've got to do is show up for yourself to be present with where you're at that day. And then you'll always forever arrive. Like you will already have arrived and been there just by sitting here and talking to you on this tiny little screen, seeing you in your little box. Like I'm fucking here. Like it's all good. Like I've arrived, whether my body's in the best shape, whether the show's gonna happen. Like, and I just think that's what this whole quarantine has gifted all of us. And the timing was just kind of crazy for myself. I was already going through a lot of these thoughts and spiritual concepts and whatnot. And it's just really driven it home for me. It's like, you got nowhere to be, girl, like physically and spiritually.
Right.
And that the work is also too, I think it's this I love this word, this pervasive thing collectively that we think once we do the thing, once we master, once we learn how to be this version of ourselves, then we'll get the part, or then you can start the business, then you can move to Europe. Once you do something, like step 1, 2, 3 have to happen before step 4. No. 1, 2, 3
it's
are
now.
Always happening. It's now. It's never not been now. You've never not arrived. You arrived the moment you came onto this earth. Your soul chose to have a human experience, so you is here.
Yeah, totally. I know what you mean.
That's meaning my new rap single, You Is Here.
DJ Kelly, that's amazing.
Well said.
Right. Well said. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's because, you don't want to live in the future for the rest of your life. You gotta live in the present.
And I think I never thought I was living in the future as much as I was. Yeah, you distilled that down for my long-winded answer, that it really is like running a race. I think I posted the other day saying like I'm the queen of thinking about the finish line before I even took off for the race. And yet, like, you think you're not, because like you're meditating and I also think dance really is one of the only times where I can be fully present with myself. It does feel like a meditation. Everything kind of stops. You have to focus on what you're doing. You have to be with the people you're with. Like the lift won't work unless you're fully engaged and embodied in what the thing is. And so that made me feel like I was present and I wasn't racing. But it's like, nope. Again, it's just a bit of a band-aid that I'm really grateful for, because otherwise, I don't know, it would have been like on a lot of drugs or something.
It does help. Yeah, wow. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess you kind of perfected that as a performer. You said, okay, I'm going to be present. I'm going to be with my collaborators. I'm going to be in the process. But then, you didn't have time for it in your real life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're just racing to be, how can I be present as the dancer? How can I be, it also comes back to, who are you other than the dancer? That's a whole
Yeah.
other like can of worms right there, which I think many performers, now that we've sort of come to terms with, whoa, when's the next time I'm going to perform? When's the next time I'm going to be in a studio? When's the next time? I just had like 3 gigs canceled on me. I will not be performing till 2021. If not that, if who knows, even then.
Hard to
That's
reconcile
up
with
for,
that.
yeah. So then you go, okay, well, now I really better see what I have to offer other than my body and my talent. And like, just PSA for everyone listening, you have a lot to offer. You have everything to offer, actually. You don't need dance. Dance doesn't need you. Like, you are, it's an active choice of expression, because like, what a gift. Holy crap that we have that. But it's like, there's, the amount of times I've looked up at the sky in the last 6 months and just gone, oh my God, I'm so lucky.
To be in the earth and to have a life in this earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
As
And
I'm
it
looking
just
at your
was
beautiful
so,
sky behind you.
yeah,
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
When you live in the studio and you live in your head and you live in your body and you live in the mirror all the time, we forget to look up. We live in the screen of our phone. I honestly could say, I don't know when the last time I would have looked up and had that feeling when I was running the race and in the grind and doing the things. And it feels good. It fills you up, but it's fleeting. So then it perpetuates the race. You're still the hamster on the wheel. Because it's like,
And
what happens if it all falls away?
Yeah. You can self-return.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Come home, arrive. We're really
Kelly
good at wrapping this in a bow.
I hope so, yeah. No, I mean, thank you for your honesty and your willingness to talk about yourself. And I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this. I certainly have. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Thanks for having me here and giving me a platform to exercise my voice in this way. And then, all the nerves just fall away, because we're meant to communicate. Yeah.
Everyone can go and check out Kelly on her Instagram, and you have a lot of exciting info coming up. And on today, when this podcast release, a very exciting project as well. So definitely check that out. Yeah.
Yes. You can find my website. It will be kelly-shaw.com, and find lots of fun things happening.
Very easy to find. Perfect. Everyone should go and check that out for sure.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. We can continue to talk. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Versations podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help the podcast grow. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at ArtVersationsPod. That's ArtVersationsPod. You'll find photos of each of my guests so you can match a voice to a face. Let's keep the conversation going. DM me with your own thoughts about art, as I would love to hear them. I'm always up for a good old-fashioned chat. Till next time.